Hey guys, I'm back with another video. Today we'll be doing what if Nafumi had Predator. And the story, I'll be honest with you, I'm gonna more focus on upgrading characters in this what if more than actual action. But there will be action since he has to gain skills and all that. So be prepared, cause I'm that nigga and I will change and I will switch up my whole mood in a second. So don't trip, right? So some things that I need to warn you about before I do all of this, right? So there will be some changes to the characters, some of their powers, some names, because remember, I can't remember the fuck names for shit, right? All I know is Melty, which is the blue haired, which is Bitch's sister. If you don't know who Bitch is, I don't know what the fuck you're watching then, because we all know the Queen Bitch. Well, she's not no queen, but like you understand, right? Yeah, you understand. Bitch, and her sister name is Melty. So, I don't know if I pronounced that wrong, right? But her sister name is Melty, right? Then there's Philo, and then there's Raftali. But there's always this one girl that's never remember her name. I always end up calling her something else, and there's no difference, but yeah, I'm still gonna call him something else because I haven't figured out the name yet, but I'm gonna call her something else. Just I'm really bad at names. Like I mean, I'm really bad at names. Anyways, so we start this what if at Nafumi when he was born. Nafumi was born with dark blue hair, with glowing yellow eyes. Slowly, Nafumi began to grow and became a toddler, and his parents were like they didn't see anything great in him. He wasn't smart from the start. He had no redeeming qualities, so they kind of gave up on him after a while. And then his Nafumi's brother came along, and Nafumi's brother was something different. He was he was very smart for his age, but they just forgot and neglected Nafumi because they saw him as worthless. Then came the time for Nafumi to go to high school. But one thing they didn't know that Nafumi was also working, and he was working at a convenience store, a desk job, and going to normal school before high school. I can't remember what it's called, but so fuck you. So he was working a desk job, another at a he was working a desk job, and then he was working at a convenience store, and now he's still going to school. So he was juggling school, and they didn't really notice that Naflim was barely home. So when it was time to go for him to go to high school, they saw Nafumi packing, and they were asked him because they finally like acknowledged his existence there, and they asked him where he's going, and Nafumi basically in a very cold tone said that he's moving out, and they kind of laughed and chuckled and said, "Where are you moving out to?" And yeah, they're kind of laughing at him, and Nafumi took out his phone and goes into his gallery and shows them a picture of his house and shows them a document that he paid for this house, and it's his house. And this house was a very luxurious house. It was not too big, but it wasn't too small, and it's basically a modern mansion, but it's not as big as it would be like a mansion would be. It's just something very fancy, small but fancy, but also look good as fuck. So yeah, so now Fumi tells him that he's been working for a while and he's got successful in his own business. So he's home self-employed, and he's just like, I've been doing other stuff, supporting myself, just getting everything, and I've been using the money that you barely give me to also fund other things. So one half of me is doing is coding, but it won't really matter because, well, we all know how this is gonna turn out. Anyways, so now Fumi goes and he gets into his new house, he packs, he stops packing, and he goes on. Then a few years passes. He's very successful in his business. He's he is filthy rich at this point, and he only talks to his brother. His parents not so much because yeah, his brothers were they were stressing out his brother and like all of that. So he reached out to him and they started talking. His brother really admires Nafumi, and Nafumi like just there, and he gives him advice how to like do a certain problem if he doesn't know how to do it. And the parents know that Nafumi is doing this, so they know he's getting help from Nafumi, but they're kind of like questioning themselves, like how didn't they see what Nafumi was doing from the beginning? So they're questioning how the fuck did they miss it. But that's not what we need to know now, and that's we don't have to care about that, right? Right? Exactly. We don't need to care, right? So Nafumi is just so Nafumi got his butt into anime, and just teach him to like balance anime and school because Nafumi's going to college, but he already finished college early, but he still decides to go to college, be on campus, do that shit because he has nothing better to do, right? And then he decides to go on university and just although he's a very successful businessman, he wants to get his PhD, his degree. He wants to get everything and then like kick it back for the rest of his life. That's all he wants to do. And one day he goes to the library. He's not just saving money this time. He's actually going for a book because he wants to go for a book. I go for books sometimes, bitch. I try to go at my school and like have all my books on me. So I just like if I know a book is in the library at school, I'll just like hey, I gonna go down there. I read that book real quick and I gonna leave real quick. Anyways, and I'll just bring back the book later. It's no problem, right? And I just so he's just like going over there and he's reading his book and he finds about the shield hero, just finding some things to watch and do and stuff. And they're like he finds the four cardinal heroes. Is it four? I don't know. Five cardinal I don't know. And he reads about the shield and he says, damn, the shield is crappy. And we time skip. We see Nafumi with a rage expression on his face, and he just like stopped beating a goblin or something. I don't know. And Raftalia, Philo, and green hair bitch. I still can't remember this bitch's name. Rashia. I'm gonna call it Rashia because Rashia. I gotta give her a name. Hold on. Ah, I got it. Her name is gonna be Fu. Yeah, Fu. Her name is gonna be Fu. So yeah. So Nafumi just goes and he steps on something, and well, not steps on something. The ground opens on the floor, and he just drops into a dungeon, and he's fell. And Raftalia, Philo, and Fu just come running out there and just shouting for Nafumi, and the hole closes up before they go in, and then Nafumi's gone. But here's the thing. Nafumi did make a master servant pact with Raftalia and Philo, so they can sense their master's emotion, and this was built in, so the servant could always know how to like please or whatever to do with their master, right? So they know Nafumi is alive and can sometimes feel his presence or something. I don't know how to say it, right? So let's go to Nafumi. Nafumi just dropped and hit his back on the hard ground, and he just looks up and the he sees everything's just dark and there's only this path, and the path is dark too. Like there's nothing but that, and then Nafumi is just like, ha, my luck. and we go back and we see about how bitch. That's one I can never remember her name because I don't take the effort to, but I'm gonna call her bitch, like Princess Bitch. Yeah, Princess Bitch. Yeah, let's talk, hashtag down I put down in the comments Princess Bitch. Anyways, let's get back into this, right? Princess Bitch just framed him and just said all these horrible things, and after that he looks at how everyone around him has a bad has bad luck because Philo, for the other hand, has been mocked and treated like an animal. And then there's Raftalia, who's been mistreated, not taken care of, all these other things, right? And then there's Fu, and oof, she was first a part of the Boy Heroes Guild or party, the Boy Heroes party, and she got kicked out because it was clumsy for someone else's problems, right? And she got kicked out because of that, and therefore Nafumi took her in. And the thing is that also the Bow Hero was saying like she's worthless and blah blah blah, and this scarred her and hurt her immensely, right? And then Naofumi was just not having it. He's just like, his life is fucked. Like, he had everything he could ever wanted, and then was just transported to this hellish world. And he's just been like this for so. He's worked for what he wanted and got revenge for his parents for neglecting him. He worked so hard, but then to fail once again, and he just feels this unbridled rage. And out of the blue, this slime comes at him and just tries to eat him, and he's getting beaten by this slime. A level 1 monster is beating his ass, and he's just getting madder and madder and madder and madder each by the second passes, and he's just mad, and he just pushes the slime and then starts punching it over and over and over and over and over again, just not even stopping. Even though he is probably dead by this point, he's not stopping. He keeps on punching and punching and punching, and he then finds this long knife on the floor, and just takes it out of the ground, and the knife is rusty at that point, and just starts, and then keeps stabbing it, and he leads to notice that his shield didn't react to him picking up anything else. So he just keeps stabbing and stabbing and stabbing, and just out of a fade of luck, piece of the slime's like body or organ, whatever it was, or ectoplasm, just got into his mouth, and he swallowed it not knowingly, and that awakened a skill that he would have never awakened. It would awaken two skills that he would never awaken until like the edge of his life, and this is Great Sage and Predator. And reason why when he ate the slime, because he ingested molecules and then activated that ability. So this is how you got Predator and blah blah blah. But Nafumi is still not stopping. He is holding, slashing, carving, and just destroying the slime until it completely disappears into ashes, because it disintegrated after it was killed. So then Nafumi got up and just on the wall, and he tore off like the bandit cloak thing and just tore it off, and just all he's left in is his black shirt, and he wrapped the scar the the cape, and like start cutting it, and then he wraps it around his waist, like how Sasuke had the thing wrapped around his waist in Shippuden. Yeah, that. And he just ties it with the piece that he cut off, and then he just rips off his sleeves and takes and puts on the metal like knee guards, and just like takes up the knife and starts like using a rock to sharpen it and digging off the rust, like he's digging it off, and he just starts sharpening, and this is where he finally realizes he can hold a knife. And remember, he can't hold any weapon, and if he has an attempt to use it as a weapon, he cannot use it. But he's been using this knife like it was a weapon the whole time. and he's like, he doesn't know what's happening. He looks at his shield, and his shield is still active. It's still there. But then he realizes something. He presses the jewel on it, and it just disappears. And then when he ripped off his left sleeve, the symbol of his shield was right there. And he was like, I can put back my shield. Perfect. And he took out the knife and Teddy just starts running in until he finds a rabbit. And a overgrown rabbit at that just started to jump, and when it jumped, it bounced off air. So basically, this rabbit can create footholds for it to just move. Guys, I need to pause for a minute. I need to go inside. Why is every time I do a video, everybody be wanting to come here? Like, I don't understand. Can't I just like record in peace and tranquility? Ugh. Alright. Hold on, guys. Let me just clear something real quick. Hello?
Bener. Bayar. Patapos ko. Discount fish wine ini.
So, so now for me, this rabbit, this overgrown rabbit with snow white fur and just these glowing red eyes, just bounces off the air towards him, and he's ready. He dodges. He goes to the left and just uses his knife to slice it, because it looks like the rabbit doesn't have that much of an aerodynamics, because it's just using its like power wildly, and remember, it's not intelligent enough to like create skills and do other things with it. So it's just like this walking thing that just can do what it can do. And Nafumi just dodges it and slices its left half, and it's crawling in pain, and then tries to like go to Nafumi again, bouncing off the air again and coming towards him. And this time Nafumi just uses his knife and stabs it right in the eye. And Nafumi pledges in pure anger, I will come out of here. I will fight or kill anything I have to get out of this hellhole. And he just drives the sword right in it, and just drives the knife right in its skull, breaking its skull enough so the blade could go through and connect to its brain, ultimately killing the rabbit. Now, when he finished killing the rabbit, he was about to move until something in his head, or well, he could see in the corner. Well, a to him, only to him, an orb in the basically an orb in the sky with a lot of triangles and squares and shape just moving around, just asked him if he wants to use his skill, Predator. And Nafumi doesn't understand, but he tells it yes. And his hand turned into this blue goop and just covered the rabbit and absorbed the rabbit into him, or absorbed his skill and just left the bones of the rabbit. Yeah, I don't want to give him, I'm not gonna make him look like the rabbit because that's a slime thing, if I could remember correctly. So no, so yeah, so so Nafumi just asked what they just did, and then the great sage says, you have acquired a new skill, ear jump or foothold, whatever you want to call it. And he explains it. The skill enables you to use to jump in midair, basically, and so you can repel and jump on certain angles in midair. So Aaron is like, the fuck, and he doesn't really care. He brandishes his knife and he uses the bones and start creating fire, and then like starts carving out stuff out of the rock and basically makes a mold, right? And he puts in the bones and just like melts the bones, like just melting it, not burning it, melting the bones, right? Using a certain liquid so the bones don't burn, right? And he like creates a mold, and then he takes a knife and then starts covering. Sorry about that. And start covering it with the liquid, and then dipping it in a fountain that was close by. And then he takes out the no long, not long sword, I would say. It's basically an overgrown knife, basically. And he just like, he takes it out, just swings it around, and says, I'm gonna get it out of here, no matter what. And he just starts going off. He goes deeper into the dungeon, and then he finds a bat, a overgrown bat at that. And this bat shoots a like sonic like scream at him. The bat makes a sound with his mouth, and this is how he finds Nafumi. Now this bat also has another ability called infrared, which is basically giving him infrared vision. So he can, so if technically he could already see him, but he couldn't because Predator. So he's like wondering. So he used his sonar, like using a sound with his mouth, was able to sense the vibrations in the air and how it reflected and came back to him, to put out a mental image of where Nafumi was, and he went to get him. This is where Nafumi jumped out the way and then gets on his back and starts stabbing the nape of his neck over and over and over again, and blood is just splattering all over his face, but he doesn't care. He keeps going and just
Sorry, brother.
yeah. Sorry for the noise in the background. Just warning you before it happens. So Nafumi just keeps stabbing and Nicholas, man, and the bat is like crying out in pain and suffering, and it's just dying, right? And it's just like here, and Nafumi doesn't care. He's like, fuck your life, I ain't give a fuck. And he keeps stabbing, like he does not care. He just wants to get more skills, wants to become stronger. He doesn't care about your life, nigga. I'm trying to kill you. Like he's like, I am Nafumi-kun. Bro, I am protagonist-kun. You are just a side plot. Get out of here. And all the jokes I'm making, but yeah, he's kind of lost his humanity a little bit, and he will slowly change into something different. He will slowly change, so there will be multiple parts of his personality, and you would see him over time get a little bit more sadistic and like sadist, and just then he will just become more anger induced, and then final version of him at this end of this whole entire like arc, basically done arcing, like it's basically a level up arc to me. This at the end of this, he's gonna be like the calmest person in the world, because he's just gonna be like that now, and just like, he's gonna be so like he's just gonna be like that. So Aaron, Nafumi is just there, and Nafumi is just there, and he's killed the bat, and he tells Great Sage to use Predator, and this is where he finds like a boar, a overgrown boar at that, just laying there, just dead, maybe to be the bat's next prey, and he just like starts to make a fire, and just starts cutting pieces off, and just like cutting off the skin and just like everything, right? And just starts cooking and eating it, and just he's just there, and he starts like doing push-ups, pull-ups, and he uses Predator to absorb the bat, and Great Sage tells him that he unlocked a new skill. He's gained the ability to have bat wings, like basically bat wings, and he's gained the ability to also use infrared vision and certain echolocation. So now Fumi's like, these are some good skills, and he's going and he just finds this being made out of dark, and he asks Great Sage what is it, and Great Sage says to him that this is like a low ranking like monster, but its skill is really weird because it doesn't really have a skill, it just has a mutation, and there's no way to possibly beat it, but for you can just absorb it. And Nafumi gets his smile on his face. So, but in other words, no one can kill this but Nafumi, and he's technically not even killing it. He's just absorbing his power into him and adding on to his power and giving him a new skill. So he goes over and he starts fighting it, and he just uses Predator and absorbs it into his body. And Great Sage told me learned a new skill called Darkness, and he doesn't know what darkness does, and neither does like Great Sage. It's really weird. So now Fumi goes on, and he runs into a kind of a armored lizard, like a lizard that has armor, and he starts fighting it, and he realizes his sword cannot penetrate the armor, so he goes for a place like where it's where it's like soft and like it has more flesh induced. He goes over there and sneaks there and just like stabs his sword right into his throat, and he's starting to enjoy this. So this is the sadist Nafumi. So this is we're getting into. So this shows you how far I'm getting into the story. So the next one is obviously calm, mellowed down, just like I can't give less of a fuck Nafumi. But don't worry, it's not gonna come in a while. So like don't trip yourself. So Nafumi is just like, I bet. And he's just enjoying it. He's reveling in killing these monsters. He's like, in a way, he's getting all of his frustrations because it's really what he needs. Because look at this. Look at it at his standpoint. Like, he's like, I had everything I could ever want a few months ago. I had money. I had friends. I had a house. Matter of fact, I had a mansion. I had my brother. My brother looked up to me, and look at my life now. And it's justified of how he's acting right now. That's why he's being sadistic, because he's like, I need to get my anger out on something, and I'm enjoying it while I'm doing it. So by standards, this would be like really inhumane. But by Nafumi's standards right now, he's gone to the point of no return. Like this Nafumi, because you all know there's gonna be different Nafumi. Well, one different Nafumi in this whole thing. So he's just ravaging. He's ravaging in the fight, in the thrill and the urge to fight others, and he's just ravaging it. And he finally decides to use some stones to knock a stone right in his eye, and just use the sand to cover its left eye, and then stabs it right in the throat, knocking the giant lizard, armored giant lizards, like knocking it down to the floor, and Nafumi is just stabbing it over and over and over and ripping out its organs and just ripping out its tongue, and just keeps digging into it until it stops kicking. And Nafumi uses Predator and starts. So a few days has gone by. I've failed to mention it, but in these few times, a few days has gone by. Oh, who am I kidding? A few months has gone by. Like it's been a long time, right? But to Nafumi, on the outside world, it's been a few months. But to Nafumi, it's been at least 3 days. And yeah, times work differently. Actually, no, it's not really working differently. Is that Nafumi doesn't know the time, and he's just like ravaging the fight so much and wanting to hunt down beasts. He's only got like 3 to 4 hours of sleep per hour, and he's like already energized because of Great Sage, and he's start ravaging, and he rips out his tongue, whipping out his eyes, and just like stabbing it over and over again until he uses Predator. And realize this lizard had more than one ability. Of course, it had body armor, which you can see in the thumbnail here. Body armor, which you can now configure over its body if you want to. And but it also had another ability called Chameleon, which is just basically giving him the ability to blend into his surroundings, basically making him invisible. Damn it, why am I vocabulary so much trash? Now, let's skip to Philo, Raftalia, and Fu. And her full name now, because Nafumi named her now, because like she had no name in the first place. She got sold as a slave by her parents, and like after she got sold as a slave, she became more cold but she put her trust into the bow hero, and she betrayed him. And Nafumi gave her a name, which is not Fu, which is not, but her full name, or the full name that Nafumi gave her was Fu Jiangchu, which was a goddess, if I can remember correctly. Fu Jiangchu, I think it was. I don't know. I'm not that cultured in like Japanese shit. I just read it somewhere. Fu Jiangchu was a goddess, so I can't remember. I don't know what kind of goddess she was. Like, she's the Earth goddess. I don't really know, nor I care. So Nafumi keeps like going on and just going, right? And Nafumi is just enjoying. He's searching for fights at this point. He's just out here looking for everybody to catch this smoke, right? And he's going in, and he's going in, and he just goes and he finds a giant spider, and he goes over, and this time he decides to sharpen a rock, and just like pelts it, and sharpens a multitude of rocks and pelts it into all of its eyes, and then restrain it with kind of vines that he found. And after restraining it, using his arm, coating his like fist in armor, like brutally beating down its brain. He could just slice off its head, but he wants to brutally beat down its brain. Yeah, he's become like that. And yeah, I'm sorry, but like this not for me. This particular not for me. He's over the edge. He's from like, okay, I'm a happy dude, to okay, I'm a less happier dude because I got transported to this fucked up world, and then to this anger induced nigga that just wants to kill everything, and then to this nigga that's just batshit, just right, too honestly crazy. Like he's just like, hey, fuck that, I'm trying to kill you. But I shouldn't be laughing, but this is pretty serious. But like, yeah, that's his whole ammo. You said fuck your lives. He's on that errand shit. Fuck those children. But no, I need to stop. But like, yeah, that's what it is. And but yeah, Nafumi's no more. And he decides on a new last name because his last name was like Tempa, which he never understood why his last name was Tempa until he remembered his mother's last name was Tempest, and he just was pronouncing wrong the whole time. So put down the meme. Nafumi, Predator Nafumi only realized that his mother's name was pronounced Tempest after now knowing for 14 years, calling himself Tenpa. Nafumi Tenpa. That's what he called himself. But his real name was Nafumi Tempest. Stupid ass idiot. Anyways, Nafumi was just like there. He's just like, hey. He remembered it. He says, I am Nafumi Tempest, and I will murder you. And he activated his plan. He throws the rocks into his eyes, binds it down with like vines that he found, and covers his hands into armor. And if you don't think this armor is gonna do anything, bitch, this armor took a katana head on by Benimaru, and it broke that shit. And I mean, oh, I know he was a little bit weaker, but damn near. Arcs are really strong in that universe, right? So yeah, he was instantly top tier, and then he became more overpowered, but he's instantly top tier at that point. So like, he doesn't really have to. So like, yeah, and it's even stronger. So Nafumi just decided, hey, fuck that, and he starts punching over and over and over, and the spider is just like crying. Well, not crying, but like it's bawling and just pain and anguish. It's just feeling all these emotions that never felt before, because again, everything was like a lifestyle to this overgrown spider. But now that this human came along, he understands how these other animals he killed felt like, and he's like, god damn. And he sees that what's happening to him is basically just karma. Karma's a bitch, and it's just basically that's what happening to him. He ate so much people, killed so many people, and he's just serving his sentence for that. And Aaron is he eventually just straight up dies because Aaron blew past his skull and just was still punching, and even though his brain was exposed, man kept punching over and over and over again, and then until he wiped off his face, and there was just this sinister smile on Nafumi's face. You see the smile that Rimuru has on his face in the thumbnail? Basically, that's what kind of smile he has on his face at this point. He's just reveling in the thing of pain and anguish, right? He absorbs him he used Predator to absorb him, and he gets three new skills, right? He gets razor wire, he gets sticky razor wire, and he also gets sticky poison razor wire. So let me explain it. Razor wire is just, it sounds, because he's using razor wire, it's actually just webs, but it's razor wire. Let's be honest here. And then there's sticky ones, so like yeah, people can stick to it. But then there's poisonous ones that the razors are like purple instead of like his normal whitish color. So when you get sliced with this like string or cord, you get poisoned instantly when it cuts you. And yeah, Nafumi is just enjoying everything. He's just so he sees a tiger just running towards him, and he just like puts out his sword to block the claws, and he does, and he just like kind of tilts his body upwards, and flips in the air, just like, and using his like wind footholds, and just jumps in the air and then jumps back down, and just keep moving around without, and so there's no wall in the vicinity of him, so you just like bouncing off air and just keep slicing this tiger, and this tiger just drops, and it's like this tiger can talk, and it just says, hey, I've been defeated, and he just the tiger just gives him his soul and tells him whenever he needs him, he can revive him, and he'll be his obedient like pet, basically. And Nafumi just tisk and just left. He didn't absorb it because he didn't find any need to. And then Nafumi goes on. This is where Nafumi meets a kind of a spirit, right? And this spirit head here was on fire, and his body was brown for the most part, and had golden like belts on, right? And he just looked at him, and Nafumi brandished his basically overgrown kitchen knife, and just run towards that nigga, and he sprinted. He ear jumped. I'm gonna call it ear jump for now on. He ear jumped and just ear jumped in the air, and then he shot three razor wires at him, and it connected, and it kind of sliced his hand. And when he was gonna do, and he didn't realize he could have just ended it there. But you could have said he could have just ended it there by using razor poison. Like, remember, Nafumi is still technically insane, so he would want to ravage in the fight. So he just keep fighting it, and just so I'm gonna narrate this fight. So Nafumi goes on head on and just uses his sword to slash down, but the spirit uses his hand to block it, and Nafumi flips back and just like tries to sweep his leg, but the spirit just started to like levitate a little bit, and Nafumi just what the fuck, and he just shoots a fire blast from the ground, and then Nafumi's just like just just wants to have like a resistant to temperature, and there it is. He's Great Sage tells him he unlocked a new skill, which is temperature fluctuation, which enables him to like basically get to hot or cold. So he's like, thanks, and just keeps flipping and just flips out of the way of the fireball and just runs through it, and then slices off his arm using air hop, and just using a lot of mana in air hop to like blitz him and slice off its arm and stab his overgrown kitchen knife into its head and just rip it out. Not not taking it out, just ripped it out of his head. So in the process, slicing his brain in half. And Nafumi just kicked it to the ground and spat on its corpse and just observed it with Predator, and just like he's like, hey, fuck you, I don't care. And this is where Great Sage tells him that he unlocked three skills. And Nafumi looked at it and asked what it was. He says first skill is pyrokinesis or fire manipulation, and then his second skill was black fire, a combination of darkness and fire, making black fire, and another skill called black lightning, which is another combination of darkness and lightning, because if you don't know, fire is also lightning, because fire at lightning emits heat, and if you don't know that, you're stupid. But lightning doesn't emit heat, so I'm pulling this out my ass, but don't worry about that, because I don't know any other way I could give it to him. So, anyways, so now for me, just ventures off again, unlocking new skills, but then he realized he really needs to take a break, and he hasn't been sleeping for at least 3 days now. And let's go back out into the real world, and we see Raftalia, Philo, Fu, and Fu, yeah, just training their heart out so they can go into wherever Nafumi is, because they're feeling now Nafumi's emotion. So they felt the anger at first, then they felt the pure sadisticness and just insaneness of his emotion at this point. So they know something's happening to him is that's making him that way, and they're scared and concerned for Nafumi, and like it's just been a rough time for them. So all of them have been training. They haven't left the forest that they were in. They did nothing. They're just standing there, just trying to get stronger. So Raftalia is working on her skills, her sword skills. And like Fu is working on her like bow, not her bow, because I don't want her to use bow. She's working on her her staff training, and she's using a staff now, and she's just trying hard, because Nafumi accepted her for what she was, even her clumsiness, and accepted her, and just treated her nicely. Sure, he could be scary and harsh at times, but he was genuinely nice most of the time. And she just knows this part of Nafumi now, and she's falling in love with Nafumi. And if you have a question, does Nafumi feel their emotion towards him yet? Because also has to have the same thing with so if the servant can feel the master's what is called it now, servants like thought feelings are emotional state, then Nafumi should feel it too. Yes, Nafumi in probability should be able to do this, but the reason he can't is because he's not in the right state of mind to do it in either phase. Because he can't clear his mind and actually think of what their feelings towards him is at this point. And nor does he really mention it or is really flying through his mind at this point, since he's just trying to survive. So I don't blame him for not doing it, but again, the reason he's not doing it is because he's borderline insane at this point. So can't really blame the nigga. And like I said, put it in comments, princess bitch. Just warning you guys, princess bitch. It's just a gang. It's just a gang. It's just a gang. Just a gang. Anyways, Nafumi is just wondering. He's just like, hey, fuck that, fuck your lives, bro. I ain't care. So he goes, and this is just this pure lake of water underground, where it's actually kind of lit up by the crystals underground. So he just takes off his clothes and just takes off his clothes and journeys into the water, and he's just like falling and just falling and just sinking into the water, relaxing his mind, and he feels them. He feels their presence, but he can't feel their emotions. A part of him is just happy that they're alive and well, but the other part is just craving for another battle, and his mind is all over the place. And he accidentally sucks in water, and he accidentally activates Predator, and he starts absorbing water, and then he uses water to boost him back up to the surface. And then that unlocks another skill, which is water manipulation. But he's gonna use water blades and propel himself through water. Yeah, I kind of don't want to make that OP, okay? Like, I don't want him making water dragons out here, okay? No. So now Fumi is just there. He's like, hey, fuck that life. I'm not trying that shit. So he's just like, he unlocks a new skill that's good for him. He's just like, yeah, that's some good shit. He washes his clothes, gets a bath, and he hasn't cut his hair. So his hair is like as the length of Rimuru at this point. So his hair is the same length as Rimuru, right? Because he hasn't cut it, so it wouldn't. But his hair is naturally just short. So unlike Rimuru, his hair is naturally short, but he'll cut it when he gets back up to the surface. Like not when he gets up, probably a few days after, like a few days before. Anyways, Nafumi gets off, dries off himself, and he finds a cat that he kills, primarily thinking it was the enemy. But when he goes over to the cat, he sees that the cat wasn't an enemy. It was just this thing. He keeps on apologizing and saying sorry, because a part of him is really sad that he just killed something for no reason, thinking it was a monster. And the cat kind of understands that it thought he was a monster, so it forgives him and gives Nafumi his soul. But Nafumi doesn't know any of this. So does he knows that you gave him, so he doesn't know how to revive them when he gets back to service, but he'll find out later. So Nafumi he's realizing that he's going insane. Well, he realized that he is insane at this point. Like, he needs to get back his mental state. He's just like, but he finds some flowers, and he asks the great sage what these flowers are, and the great sage explains that these flowers are made for magical potions or healing potions, in other words. And Nafumi just says predator, and he's just like a predator, and he just like absorbs all the plants and the flowers and stuff like that, and just absorbs all to his body. And Nafumi says, and he gets the ability, bro. He can create potions, 99% potions at this point. So perfect. Anyways. I'm sleepy. Anyways, so now Fumi just activate his wings and just starts flying to the dungeon. This is where he finds a dragon, and the dragon's dying, and Nafumi just goes down to it. Now you thought I was gonna make him fight this dragon? Stupid. Nafumi would lose real quick. So I'm be honest with you, Nafumi gonna lose real quick. I ain't gonna lie. I ain't gonna cap. I ain't gonna front. Now Fumi would get his ass beat. I ain't gonna cat with you. Now Fumi would get that work. He would get his ass pieced up. Anyways, and shipped to Japan, bro. Like, bro, that's a death sentence, right? So now Fumi just gets and he's just talking to the dragon, and dragon like he's sympathizing with Nafumi, hearing about his life and how he got transported here, and then after getting transported here, getting treated brutally, and then still have to be forced to help these ungraceful people that he didn't even want to help in the first place. So the dragon's like, hey, that's how life is. That's how humans are. They're big ass bitches. Like they pussies. They can't fight their own battles. So like, and Alfred was like, yeah, you right. No cap. That's no lie. And he just so they're having a heart to heart conversation, and the dragon is just about to die. He tells Nafumi that he's gonna die, and Nafumi was like, hey, don't die on me here, but we're just becoming friends. And the dragon says, nah, but I'm dying. And he says, but I'm gonna give you my soul. Maybe you can revive me one day. And it just gives him his soul. And he's like, and a tear comes out his eye. And this is where the final evolution of Nafumi Tempest appears, and this is where he regains his sanity and becomes mellowed down, cool, and just calm in general. And he just stands up and just walks away, grabs his stuff, and just walks away. He's losing everything, like everything. So at first, he met this tiger that respected him and all that. Then he killed this innocent cat, and then this dragon he sympathized with, and they gave him advice and just did everything that he could for him. And he's feeling real bad about what he's doing at this point. And is where the final evolution of Fumi comes along. Now Fumi keeps wandering, and he acquires many more skills, which you would find out in the later episodes. Because I'm not about to do this. I'm trying to keep some abilities secret. I knowing me, I'm gonna blurt them out at some point, but I'm gonna try not to. And if you want me some abilities to give to you, if you want Nafumi to get some skills, and first you would need to tell me what skills, what these two skills would make up. So like how I used darkness and fire to make a black fire. Yeah, you would have to do it like that. So if you want to give me suggestions for like skills, you basically have to tell me the two skills that you made up, or I could just make up one for you and create that. It doesn't really matter, right? It's not for me. He's just going, and he's just like a bet like bruh. And after a few years, he finally reached the ending of this dungeon. Well, the second ending, right? This is where he finds a forest full of fruits and vegetables, overgrown fruits and vegetables. Do you notice? And he just says predator, and he absorbs all this forest, everything. And yeah, so that's how strong his predator got. He can go engulf a whole forest, and he's just planning to duplicate it and put it into wherever he's gonna settle. So yeah, he's smart. He got an intellectual mind. So he then passes this stage and goes into the last part of the dungeon, which is called the treasury. So this is where Nafumi enters it, and he sees a bunch of gold and just all these different things. But he finds something. He finds a suit. Well, a not a suit, but an enchanted an enchanted suit, right? He finds a black shirt, right? He finds a black shirt with a plain black shirt that ends that the sleeves ends at the elbow, where he finds this skin tight shirt that it just looks like it's made out of black bandages, but at the end of the wrist, mm, has like red like markings or like words in it. And then there's his black pants black pants with minimal pockets and just this chain connecting to another side. So it's like the chain that Rimuru has right here, like this. Look at my mouse. Look at the mouse, like the chain that is right here. So it's just basically that, but it has no belt thing that Rimuru has right now. So Nafumi just there. And then there's these smooth gray leather boots with this one small golden pin on it. That this small golden pin. So these are just high. So basically, think of the Boruto Arrow Shinobi shoes, but they're actual boots, so they cover the toes. So that's what they are. And he sees this brown leather slash with a like pin on it, with a golden pin, with a cloud and a thunderstrike coming down from it, with rain also, which is also obviously symbolizing a storm, which is yeah, which is that what it is. And he puts on the skin tight bandage shirt and the black shirt, the black the black ah, the plain black shirt, the pants and the boots and the sash. Puts it on and he's like, damn, I look fresh as fuck. And he's just like, hey, and he goes and starts searching around until he finds something called a magic satchel, which he attaches to his other side of his pants, right? And he sees that it could hold infinite amount of stuff. So he start putting all the treasury, everything into the satchel, and this is where he finds a scroll. One scroll says a mansion, and the other says puppet servants, and then the other says vampire serum, and then the other one said 4 sacred weapons. And then Nafumi opened the 4 sacred weapons, where he found a sword, a sword. Basically, it's the sword that Rimuru has in the thumbnail. So look at my mouse. Basically that. So it's basically that sword right there that Rimuru has there. But on the end of it, there's a string with a red tooth on it. So this sword is basically indestructible and a blade that would always stay sharp. Now for me, swings it around and realize it's really, really light, like basically thin as paper. Well, not thin as paper, nor as light as paper. It's just feels. Alright. So Nafumi just goes over there and he takes the sword and puts the sword on the back of his hip. Just how Rimuru has it on the back of his hip. And he just walks over to the other weapons and he sees them and he sees the abilities that they have. What the 3-bladed scythe has the ability called Snatch, basically enabling him to steal or take anything it wants without the other person noticing, or taking people's organs without the person noticing it was gone in the first place, ultimately killing them. Depends on what organ you took. And it's also incredibly sharp. The other one was a katana. Basically, this sword it basically was a wind sword. So it looks like the wind Hashiras from Demon Slayer's sword. Basically, that's what it looks like. And it enables him to use a technique called Severed Winds Dimension Slash. Basically, she can use the wind pressure in the air to slice someone. So she doesn't have to directly slice something so it could be sliced. Okay, that didn't make any sense, but we don't talk about that. So the other weapon would be a staff. It basically looks like Kagura's staff from Naruto. That's basically what it looks like. But instead of it being completely black, it is silver with the rings being golden. So this sword is basically a spirit chasuble, but it's not a spirit chasuble. It can use a technique called break, and using this technique, it can turn the the staff into small ninja stars or shuriken that she can use tele, telekinetic. She can move them with her mind. I'm not really gonna specify all that shit. Anyways, Nafumi just takes this up, and then he sees the vampire serum and he reads about the vampire serum. It can basically give someone bigger mana, increase strength, increase speed, increase senses, but you don't have to devour blood, but you will just observe people's mana, things, so you can basically eat plants and rats and like all these other stuff, and you're basically just sucking the nutrients out of it. You're not technically sucking blood, the nutrients and mana out of something or someone. So yeah, so if they were to eat a steak, the steak would be technically untouched, but when you bite it, there's no flavor to it. There's nothing. It's just like it basically tastes like rubber. That's basically what it would taste like after like someone ingested the serum. That's what it would basically taste like. It would taste like trash. Anyways, so and it also gives them a new awakened skill. Nafumi takes these, and he finds a home. It's basically a mansion inside of a scroll that was sealed away, and he takes that. And then a circle appears, but he uses his sword to now cut his hair, and this is what he looks like in the thumb. Yeah, he can cut his hair with his sword. He's a barber, bro. He bought that gang, right? So he just does that. So a portal like opens, and he just walks out the portal, and he walks right in front of Raptalia, Philo, Fu, and they see him, and they feel these well of emotions, and they just look at him, and Nafumi looks at them and says, you know, for people that is madly in love with me, I would believe you would have a bigger reaction of me coming back, but hey, some people express their love in different ways. And yeah, Nafumi does know, because now he's in a more calmer mind state, and I just skipped forward, so yeah, time passed and he felt their emotions, so he knows how they feel about him. Blah blah blah. I don't really care, right? So they know a lot about this, right? So at a time that Nafumi cut off the connection because he didn't want that. He didn't want to always know his emotions, so he just like he cut that off. So yeah, Nafumi, he's the goat, right? So they blush, and then they run up to him and hug him and just say they missed him and how they felt about it, and just like, and Nafumi says, yeah, I know I'm kind of a jerk for not saying anything or showing it my feelings how I felt. I'm sorry. And Nafumi gives them the potions and said, well, serum, and tells them to drink it. Nafumi tells it will make them stronger, and Nafumi says, haven't you realized how stronger I've gotten since I came here? Now they probably looked at Nafumi. They see his toned body, his new fit, and he also had something was attached to the baddest mask. It's basically Kakashi's mask, but he won't always use it. But it's basically Kakashi's mask. So he does have that. So he's wearing it right now, but he took it off when he got there. So Nafumi just says, aren't you gonna drink the serum? And they remember, and they drink the serum, and this is where like black tendrils come out the ground and wrap around them in a cocoon like, and after a few minutes the cocoon starts to break, and this is where they come out. Now something changed about each and every one of them. Now Philo, hair now is still golden, but the end of her hair is black. But the ends of her hair is black. Raphtalia hair has become straight, so there's no curls. I ain't finished. So Raphtalia's hair has now become flat. It becomes straight, so there's no like curls in there or nothing. And her ears became pointy. She evolved. She's evolved to fox, a fox vampire, vampire fox. So she's evolved to that. Philo has evolved to a vampire Philolial. She can the, sometimes she can make the illusion look like she can turn into so so it's basically illusion to the Philolials. So when a Philolial sees her, she looks like a Philolial. But to humans, if she allows it, humans like can see her as her human form. Basically, that's what happened, right? And her wings has now became black, and the ends of her wings has became red. Now we go on to Phil because I still can't remember her name. I'm probably never gonna. So Phil. Phil's hair is not braided anymore. It's flowing and it's just straight. And her eyes and all of their eyes, in all of their one eye. In Raphtalia's case, all two of her eyes because her eyes was already that color. So Philo's eyes were blue, but one turned red. Fu's eyes were green, but one of them turned red. Raphtalia's eyes was always red, so never really need to change it. So yeah. So they're like they come out and Nafumi opens the skull and gives them the great weapons. Now Philo gets the scythe like I always give her, and Raphtalia gets the katana, and Fu gets the staff. Now tell me the names of these katana or staffs, because I don't have the names of them. So if you want to name them, go ahead. Go ahead, do in the comments, do whatever you want. I'm not that good at naming anything, so yeah. So I'll just quickly explain the magical abilities. I'm gonna get into their character a little bit later in my next video probably. So if you guys want me to do part 2 to this right after part 1, if you guys want that, I'm not saying if you do. If I said if you want that, I just know if you want that, I can do that, but depends. So so Fu's, I'm gonna start with Fu because she's first up in my line of sight. Fu's new skill that she's unlocked acquired to her. So she's evolved to a human vampire. So her evolution is a human vampire. So yeah. Sure, our evolution gave her a new skill, which is called light manipulation. So she can conjure light spirits, light swords, and control them like they were telekinesis. And she can also call her weapons in light to make them move at light speed. And her configurations are light induced, so they're basically made out of pure light. So it's basically light magic from Black Clover. It's basically what it was. And Philo's like I always give her is ice. So she has ice things, but she has something called anti-magic ice. Yeah, basically, yeah, as you hear, anti-magic. So it negates all magic spells, making her ice the most effective. Now there is Raphtalia's. Hers is black fire, which she inherited from Nafumi because of their close, because she has the closest bond to Nafumi. Originally, she was supposed to get darkness, but she also inherited fire from Nafumi, which also gave her black fire. So that's the end of the video, and you know what? I'll go a little bit later, a little bit. So I'll just explain some stuff. But no, actually, now I'll just show you their house. So I'll just show you in the next video, but I'll show you the house because I'm generous, okay? So let's look for this house because So this would be Nafumi's and the new house they would have. So this will be the end of the video, guys. Have a good day, have a good one, and this will be the end of the video. Peace out and deuces.